Yelena booked the private room in the back of the coffee shop. Baristas and servers greeted us with warm smiles as we walked through the main area. The smell of espresso, hazelnut, cinnamon, and baked goods filled the air, putting my mind at ease slightly. We entered the room and my eyes landed on the center of the table, which housed fresh coffee, orange juice, fruit, and a breakfast spread out of this world. I'm talking eggs that looked like they came from two parents that loved and adored them the whole of their existence. Avocado, bacon, smoked andouille sausage, waffles, pancakes, an array of fruit, enough to feed a small army and their family. I hadn't noticed how hungry I was until that very moment, realizing I hadn't eaten in about 2 days. "I know you don't eat when you're stressed, so I had them set this up," said Yelena, steps ahead as always. I hugged her again while saying, "I just realized I'm starving, thank you." "Great, get some food, coffee, and let's get to work," she said as she set up her laptop and files. "I had my forensic accountant review all of your accounts, and you're right, he's been wiring money to Jessica for quite some time now," said Yelena as she handed me the evidence, "to the tune of just over $48,000 from your joint savings and over $60,000 from his personal savings. Are you kidding me right now? Please tell me I'm being punked," I exclaimed. But I knew Yelena was a lot of things, but a jester about money, she was not. Sadly, all of this is true. He's been sending her $500 a week from the joint account for at least 2 years now. 2 years? I yelled. 730 days? No fucking way. Yes, fucking way, love, Yelena stated. Their affair predates your pregnancy by at least 1 year. I currently have a private investigator looking to confirm just how long they've known each other and where they met. I sank into myself because how could I have been so stupid, so unsuspecting? Over 2 years of cheating? Yuck. I began to feel sick to my stomach. I mean, where were my antennas? Before Micah, our sex life was amazing, or so I thought. We had regular date nights, except for when he'd have to cancel for work. Then boom, it hit me. "I know that look. What did you just conclude?" asked Yelena. There were subtle signs. He started going out of town twice a month for work under the guise of either expanding his clientele or attending workshops to further his knowledge in his field. But when he'd come home, he would decline being intimate with me, stating it had been a long week and he needed to rest up. Yelena's eyes narrowed. At first, I would concede to this, but then I started to think it was odd and questioned him. And every time, he'd make love to me and promise he was working hard for our future. I then started casting those thoughts to the back of my mind, until eventually the intimacy became less and less. Truth be told, Micah was a happy accident. Don't get me wrong, we always planned to have children, but at the time of our son's conception, we hadn't been with each other in months. One day, I'd had enough and accosted him in the shower. A month later, I found out we were pregnant. "And what was his reaction?" Yelena asked. "He seemed happy about it, but now, looking back, it was forced, for the sake of appearances. We're going to get down to the bottom of this, sweetheart. Don't you worry. Remember, he's playing checkers while we're playing." "Chess," I whispered, finishing her sentence. "And who do we protect at all times?" Yelena asked. "The queen," I murmured. "I can't hear you." "The queen," I said a little louder. "I'm not convinced," said Yelena. "The queen," I yelled as tears streaked down my face, creating little puddles on the papers that lie before me. Micah began to stir, and I knew it was time to feed him. I looked upon his beautiful face as I nursed him, thinking to myself, "We're going to be just fine. Mommy's got you." Grateful he was unassuming, remaining in his little bubble of love. Yelena wouldn't allow me to leave until I ate some food, stating, "You have to be strong for him. He needs you. Don't let the mistakes of his father cause you to lack as his mother." I ate a plate of my favorites. I'd need my strength for the battle ahead. The next morning, it was business as usual for Brian. He rose and looked at his phone with that stupid-ass smile, unaware of the hellfire I was about to rain down upon he and his mistress. He went to the bathroom, phone in hand, and got ready for work. When he re-entered the room, he jumped, taken aback by me standing there with his work shirt. I didn't expect you to be up this early," he stammered. "I just wanted to see you off and ask if we could get away this weekend. Micah and I miss you. Seems like you've been so busy with work these days," I said, playing it cool. "I'm sorry, baby. I have to leave for a workshop. I'll be gone through next Friday," he said while placing a gentle kiss on my forehead. "I'll make it up to you both, I promise." And with that, he got dressed and left for work. Little did he know, I had no plans on going anywhere with his cheating, backstabbing, disloyal ass. I was simply trying to see how long I would have to burn his entire world to the ground. I called Yelena, who picked up on the first ring. "He's leaving for another conference. He'll be gone through next Friday." "Good. The PI already has his vehicle make and license plate. We'll get plenty of evidence, which will help a great deal given the infidelity clause in the prenup," she said. "Yeah, that's right, a prenup," insisted upon by my late grandfather and my parents. I remember the day Brian tried to talk me out of it, yet stating it was like sentencing our marriage to death, and I was so in love with him. I actually got mad at my parents and grandfather for suggesting it, threatening to never speak to them again. It didn't matter because they would not budge and told me if we didn't sign, they'd disinherit me. Now, we're not blue bloods by any means, but thanks to entrepreneurship, inventions, and sound investments, my family amassed millions of dollars, and my grandfather, along with my parents, weren't going to leave money like that up to chance or true love. So, I caved, and we signed on the dotted line. "Everything is in motion. You all good on your end?" asked Yelena. "Yes, I have a meeting with a realtor today about a property I've long since had my eyes on, and I'll be going by the bank afterwards to start moving my money out of our joint accounts." "Good. Are your parents still going to watch Micah for a few days while you prepare?" "Yes, but they're growing suspicious, asking if everything is okay at home. I told them everything is fine, I just need a little help right now," I answered. "You'll be able to tell them soon enough. And if you feel like you're going to spill the beans, remember it's chess, not checkers," I said, finishing her sentence. With that, I got Micah's bag together, clutching him as if my life depended on it. "It's only going to be for a few days. Mommy's going to miss you so much," I said between kisses all over his beautiful chunky face. The meeting with the realtor went as smooth as expected. I closed on the property, a 3,000 square feet, 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in an up-and-coming subdivision with a beautiful view of Lake Tahoe on about a half-acre of land. I paid for it cash. It has a balcony off my room on the second floor that faces east, which was really the selling point for me. Nothing like a good cup of coffee while watching the sunrise in all its glory, with its beautiful hues of orange and yellow dancing off of crystal blue waters. I drove back into the city for the meeting with the bank manager. I explained I needed to completely divide our assets and provided documentation from the forensic accountant. She was all too eager to help, stating, "I detest cheaters," and went into a 30-minute spill about her first marriage. "We've got to stick together, us girls," she said once she finished her story, pulling me into an embrace. "That we do. Thank you so much for your help," I said, and just like that, assets were fully separated. I then went home and packed up all of Micah's and my belongings, clothes, shoes, toys, and placed green tags on the furniture I would be taking, family heirlooms passed down through generations. This task took me into the wee hours of the next morning, but still with good timing as I had 3 more days before Brian would be home. I showered, went to bed, and enjoyed the best night of sleep I'd had in a long while. I awoke around 9 a.m. the next morning, anticipating the arrival of the movers. "Alexa, play Good as Hell by Lizzo." "Now playing Good as Hell by Lizzo and similar music," responded Alexa. I bounced down the stairs, made me some breakfast, toast, 2 scrambled eggs, and bacon. I put a pot of coffee on and chopped up some fruit while it dripped. I then sat at the table, memories of the many meals we shared, laughs, and even our fears seeping into my mind. This was where we planned our lives. As the tears crawled down my face, I accepted this would be the last time I would break bread in our home, my last supper. I took a deep breath, wiping my face, looking forward to the next chapter for Micah and I, while Lizzo sang, "If he don't love you anymore, just walk your fine ass out the door." "Someone's at the front door," said Alexa, alerting me to the movers. They entered the home and looked relieved at the organization and the fact the job wasn't going to be as big as they thought. "Wow, packed up, color-coded, you've made our job so easy." I almost feel bad for charging you, said Jacob, the man in charge. Organization is kind of my thing, I said, but you'll be paid your regular fee, and I appreciate you coming in such short notice. The pleasure is all mine, Jacob said through a prideful smile. The moving truck was packed in an hour, with my things delivered to the new home and set up in under 2 hours. I was elated, to say the least. My son has a beautiful backyard to play in. I have neighbors close enough to know, but far away enough to not be directly in each other's business. I went back to our townhome for one last walkthrough. When I entered the home, a stillness, like none I'd ever felt, filled the rooms, rendering the house eerily quiet. I went into my office, pulled out my journal, and penned a 4-page letter to my soon-to-be ex-husband, expressing a myriad of feelings, documenting every aspect of my heartbreak. I left it on the counter along with the keys, blocked him on everything, and drove to my parents' house. When I walked in, my mom and dad instantly knew something was off. Since my plan was now nearing completion, I finally broke down, literally and figuratively, telling them the sordid details of Brian's infidelity and thievery. My parents listened with wide mouths and anger plastered across their faces. I'm going to beat his ass! Nobody disrespects my baby girl, my father exclaimed as he got up and pulled me into his arms. No, Daddy, I don't want you to get into any trouble. Besides, you taught me well. It's already handled. I know, baby girl, but he hurt you and he has to answer to me for that. When you hurt, we hurt, he said, tears welling up in his and my mother's eyes. This is not the life we envisioned for you, my mother said through sobs. I know, Mommy, I know, and we all stood there, embraced, silently crying. It was the first time I felt safe in a while, as moments of red flags replayed in my head. They say hindsight is 20/20 after looking at things through rose-colored glasses. My father stepped back, and while wiping his eyes asked, So baby girl, what's the play? I told them about the division of assets, the new property, and the divorce papers Brian would be served upon his return. I told them how he was blocked on everything and requested them to direct him to Yelena should he call about me or Micah. Are you sure blocking him is a good idea given y'all share a baby? My mom asked. As long as he has a means of contacting me, even through a third party, I'm good, I replied. My parents let out a sigh of relief. We just don't want the bastard to have any sort of upper hand, my mom exclaimed. Thank you for always having my back, I said, breaking down again. Always, baby girl, always, my parents said in unison while pulling me back into another embrace. Micah began to stir. He'd been sleeping peacefully since I got there. Frankly, he was the best part of this madness. So sweet, so innocent, so untouched by his father's treachery. I picked him up from his bassinet, my heart melting at his coos and other baby noises, and breathed him in. You guys want to see the house? I asked my parents, attempting to lighten the mood. Of course, I have to see where my babies are going to be living, my mom said, and with that, we all loaded into my father's Escalade and headed to the new house. I received an alert to my phone of Brian's arrival home on Friday. I watched him walk inside, oblivious to what took place in his absence, and a devious smile crept across my lips at what was to come. I listened to him call out for Micah and I, and chuckled at the bewildered look on his face once I didn't answer. I saw him look around the house, taking stock, realizing things were missing. He then ran upstairs, and while there are no cameras in our room, I could just about imagine the look on his face after seeing all of my things were gone. My imagination turned to reality once he went into Micah's empty room, and panic started to set in. I watched him pull out his phone and attempt to call me several times, each time receiving an automated message due to being blocked. He then ran downstairs, walking into the kitchen when he stopped dead in his tracks after seeing the envelope addressed to him on the counter. He hurriedly grabbed it off the counter, ripped it open, and began to read. His head began to hang lower and lower with each page. As he reached the end of the last page, his head jolted up with the knock at the front door. The process server was right on time with the divorce papers. I could hear him say, "Brian Davies?" as Brian opened the door. "Who's asking?" replied Brian. "Look, man, are you Brian Davies or not?" the processor asked impatiently. "Yeah, now what do you want?" "You've been served," he said, handing him the papers, and turning to walk away as Brian asked, Served with what? I'm not Mother Goose. Read it for yourself, the processor said as he got into his car and shut the door. Brian stood there, irritation displayed on his face. Not gonna lie, I laughed at that Mother Goose retort. Brian rushed back inside, opened the envelope, and sank into the couch at the gravity of the situation. Shit finally hit the fan. Boom, 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 boom. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Brian frantically banged on my parents' door and rang the doorbell incessantly. Who is at my goddamn door making all this noise? My father exclaimed as he reached the front door. Oh, it's just you. What do you want? Where's my family? My son? My wife? I know they're in there, damn it, Brian yelled. You better calm all that shit down before I take your ass to the king. You don't run anything over here, my father said. Please let me in, Brian requested with less bass in his voice. No, what do you want? My father asked. Please, tell me where they are. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, Brian pleaded. You mistakenly had an affair for over 2 years? My father sarcastically asked, followed by, were you served? Yes, Brian responded. Well, you're aware of what's going on, and when you'll see your ex-wife and son again, now get the fuck off my porch. You're disturbing the neighbors. Brian turned defeated and walked back to his car. The morning of the divorce proceedings, I met Yelena and my parents at our favorite breakfast spot. My parents agreed to watch Micah during mediation. They insisted on being there, but I assured them I could handle it and reminded them they raised a strong woman. After much resistance, they finally concurred. The proceedings went quicker than expected, with Brian attempting to speak to me at every turn, followed by the judge stating, Mr. Davies, please refrain from speaking out of turn and confer and speak through your attorney. Finances were separated. He had no claims to any funds I obtained pre-marriage, and due to the infidelity clause, he was prohibited from alimony. I was also designated as the custodial parent since he traveled for work so much. However, he was granted supervised weekend visitation at a neutral location to be revisited in 5 years, on top of being ordered to pay child support and alimony. Lastly, the judge ordered us to sell the townhouse and split earnings evenly between the both of us. Brian tried to contest the trust and some of my other finances, but he didn't have a leg to stand on given the emails and photos provided by the PI. And just like that, we signed on the dotted line for the last time, permanently closing this chapter of our lives. As I stood to walk out, Brian asked, "Is this really how you're going to end things?" I slowly turned to look at him and said, "You ended things when you sought the affection of someone else, tried to take my son and all my money." He dropped his head as I turned and walked away. In the days and weeks that followed, I found out through mutual friends Brian was trying to paint himself as a victim, claiming I lost my mind, kidnapped our son, and divorced him. I received a host of calls and texts from his side of the family and mutual friends, attempting to chastise me, a grown-ass woman, about choices that had absolutely nothing to do with them. After a few days of this, and being sent several screenshots of ambiguous social media posts, painting me as the villain and him as the hardworking husband who didn't deserve this, I'd had more than enough. Up until that point, I kept it cute by not divulging our marital business to the public, but since he wanted to play, I laced up my shoes and stepped on the court. I made a simple post across all of my platforms comprised of one sentence: cheaters are going to cheat and liars are going to lie, and attached the emails and photos. I didn't stop there. I also sent the proof to all his family, mutual friends, with the message, "Now kindly, fuck off, disrespectfully." Brian went from victim to the world's dumbest man in a matter of days. I heard he deactivated his social media after that. How could I have been so blind? I prided myself on being discerning, but clearly had become complacent with the bare minimum from a man who claimed to love me. Never again. Today marks over a 1.5 years since the death of my marriage, and I can say I am truly happy. Micah is almost 3 years old now, walking, talking, and constantly getting into things. His curiosity amazes me. He asks a lot of questions, let me tell you, but I answer every single one because I aim to edify his curiosity and constantly strive to satiate his appetite for learning. He's in a prestigious preschool with an excellent curriculum. I know what you're thinking, he's just 2. But before I ever became a mother, I always vowed to give my child every opportunity. He spends time with his father on the weekends, who now knows our location, though we still meet on neutral grounds. Jessica, the mistress, left Brian once she realized he would no longer be able to support her lavish lifestyle, but not before siphoning off all of his money from his personal and business accounts, essentially rendering him penniless. Back when I had Brian investigated, the PI unearthed a mountain of evidence of Jessica being a conwoman with several aliases. Her MO was to go after men of means, usually married, and drain their accounts. Brian was just the latest lick in a slew of suckers. While my first thought was, serves him right, I quickly changed my tune because he's still my son's father. If he suffers, my son suffers, so I rehired the PI to track down Jessica, or whatever her name was. Yelena represented Brian and effectively sued her ass into oblivion. She had to return all of the money she stole from him, minus the money he'd given to her as gifts. During the lawsuit, we found out she was wanted in several states and some other countries. But get this, it wasn't just for conning men, she was also suspected of murder. The look on Brian's face after learning this? Priceless. I mean, just when you think you know someone, right? He thought my helping him was an opening for us to reconcile, but I quickly let him know he was sadly mistaken. He went into this spill about how I was the best thing to ever happen to him, and how he never meant to hurt me. Cue the fucking violins. I opened a restaurant called Taste of the Country South with a special focus on reimagined Southern comfort foods, and let me tell you, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. These folks in Tahoe City didn't know what hit them. We're in the process of expanding into a neighboring city, and I'm so excited. I get to make money doing what I love, make my own hours, and spend time with my son. If you're wondering, yes, I've been out on a couple of dates, but nothing serious. Just needed to flex my muscle to see if I still got it, and I do. The Bews were complete gentlemen, but I have no desire for anything serious until my son is older. Besides, I'm still somewhat scarred, but getting better every day. I attend therapy once a week, work out every morning, journal, and read something, anything, fiction, current events, short stories, just to keep my mind from going back to the sunken place. Some days are harder than others, but what's life without a little hardship? I've had more good days than bad, and I'm eternally grateful for that. My parents, Yelena, Micah, and my business are my anchors. When I feel I'm floating into the atmosphere of despair, I envision them instantly becoming rooted back into reality. Then I remind myself what happened does not define me. If you read with me this far, I humbly thank you and kindly ask that you like, share, and subscribe. If you're feeling generous, hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted when I drop a new story. Lastly, give my TikTok a follow for shorter stories.